Production and distribution of City Club forums on IdeaStream Public Media are made possible by PNC and the United Black Fund of Greater Cleveland, Incorporated.
Good afternoon, and welcome to the packed City Club of Cleveland, where we are devoted to creating conversations of consequence that help democracy thrive. It's Tuesday, January 28th. I'm Lita Obertaz, Senior Vice President for Philanthropy at the Cleveland Foundation and proud board member of the City Club. Today I have the distinct honor of introducing today's forum, which is the annual Richard W. and Patricia R. Pogue Endowed Forum. For those of you who don't know Dick Pogue, aside from being one of the region's most influential and impactful leaders for decades, he is also one of Cleveland's biggest sports fans. And today, we have the privilege of welcoming the 45th manager of the Cleveland Guardians, Stephen Vogt. Vogt joined the club in November 2023, just 2 years after finishing his major league career and stepping into the seemingly unfillable shoes of Terry Francona. Vogt also inherited the youngest roster in the MLB and saw the loss of star pitcher Shane Bieber in the first week of the season due to an elbow injury. By all accounts, the odds were stacked against him in his inaugural year. But what came next ended up being one of the Guardians' best seasons in history, backed by the best bullpen in the majors and an American League Central Division title for Cleveland. But that wasn't enough. In November 2024, Vogt was named the 2024 American League Manager of the Year. The fifth youngest manager to win the award after receiving a resounding 27 of the 30 first-place votes. He is the fastest person to go from player to manager of the year in the award's history. His success is credited to many things, but in particular, Vogt brings a new style of leadership and organizational culture that centers on humility, humor, and even passing the aux cord. That's what you plug in to play the music. Also, joining us on stage this afternoon is Matt Underwood, the play-by-play announcer for the Cleveland Guardians. He will serve as today's moderator for today's conversation. If you have a question for Stephen, you can text it to 330-541-5794. That's 330-541-5794. And the City Club staff will try to work it into the Q&A portion of the program. Members and friends of the City Club of Cleveland, please join me in welcoming our American League Manager of the Year, Stephen Vogt and Matt Underwood.
Thank you. Such a warm welcome. Appreciate everybody for coming out on this cold, snowy day. Steve and I are both very excited to be here because, one, we know that even though it's hard to tell by looking out those windows, spring is right around the corner, at least for us. 1 month from today, gosh, it's even faster than that. We'll be a week's worth into games already by now in 1 month. So the clock is definitely ticking. I want to get started with talking about your first year managing, but let's go backwards a little bit. All those years you spent as a catcher, we know that catchers, maybe more than any other position, graduate to managing in the game of baseball. You have a unique position, a unique perspective, because you're the only guy on the field that's watching the entire game all the time. Whether you knew it or not, were you a manager in training automatically just because you're playing the position of catcher?
Yeah, I think, first of all, thank you for having us. This is an awesome event and really honored to be here, able to speak with you all. So I think as a catcher, you go through every game. Not only are you doing everything you can to help the pitchers get through it, but you still have to hit, you still have to talk with your teammates and be a leader and do all these different things. And your game prep is very advanced, maybe compared to an outfielder or an infielder. Not that they're not game prepping, I promise they're working, but as a catcher, you're making 175 to 200 in-game decisions, and you're doing it quickly. And one of those might win or lose the game, and you don't know which one it's going to be. And so I think all of that preparation and knowing pitchers a little bit better because you've worked with them, and then you also know the mind of a position player, it just really helps you relate to every player, no matter what position they play, no matter who they are. And you're close with the coaching staff and manager because you're always communicating about what we're trying to do on the pitching side. So it allows you to develop those relationships and get those experiences. And from a very young age, 24, 25, I knew I wanted to be a head coach, maybe in college or at least coach professional baseball. And then over the years of my playing career, really wanted to do this job, and I'm really fortunate to be doing it.
And what a first year he had. Manager of the year, as we know. When you talk about being in that position of leading a team and leading men, where does that start in terms of, let's back up a second. So you take the job, and I think everybody in this room, in our professional or even in our personal lives, we've dealt with change. A lot of us are not real easy with change. I know personally I'm averse to change. It really kind of throws a monkey wrench into the machine for me. So I don't deal with it as well as I would like. You come into a situation as a new manager. If this team had come off a couple of 100 lost seasons, they would be begging for change. This isn't working. We need change. We need you to tell us how to do this. You come into a situation with a team that had had a lot of success in recent years. So how did you manage that delicate balance between implementing your ideas on how you wanted to manage without upsetting the routines and processes that had made some of these players already successful?
Yeah, I think obviously it's a daunting task to take over an unbelievable franchise with so much success, let alone for a Hall of Fame manager. And as you're going, and Tito was so great to me in the transition. I spoke with him a number of times, asking him questions, and he was really, really good for me. And I have so much respect for him. And so taking over for him, and you hear the question, I'm pretty tired of hearing it, how are you going to fill those shoes? And I'm like, I can't. I'm never going to fill the shoes, but I'm going to do my best. And I think for me, getting rid of that, and then let's focus on how can I learn as much as possible about the Cleveland Guardians organization? How do I learn how they do this, how they do that, what has worked in the past, what hasn't? Where can we make these minor little improvements on what is already a great place and has had a ton of success? And in finding all of that and working with all of the resources and the unbelievable people that work for the Cleveland Guardians, that was what resounded, is it's about the people. So whether the product you see out on the field is you see the baseball, you see the guys playing, you see the coaches coaching, you see me making a bad decision or a good decision or whatever it might be. What's not seen is the hours and hours and hours we spend pouring into our people, not just the players, but the front office, the trainers, the coaching staff, the support staff, our research and development. I mean, the hundreds of people that it takes to put that show on every night. And what happened there is when you come into a new situation, change is hard, as Matt alluded to. Change isn't easy for everybody. And one of the phrases that I've found in my long career that really, really is detrimental to anybody's success is, well, it's the way we've always done it. And where can we get better? And I think that's what makes our place so great, is that everyone's on that same page. Is let's find out what are we doing really well and how can we keep enhancing it and moving the needle forward. And for me, coming in and seeing things that maybe I didn't particularly like a whole lot, it was really hard to not just say, oh, we need to do this. But I had so much respect for what people have done in Cleveland and the success that's been here that I wanted to see it play out. And then we made little tweaks along the way. And instead of just ripping a Band-Aid off with changing something, no, we need to hear everyone's opinion. We need to collaborate. We need to work on this together and find out how we can get better. And I felt like our group and our organization as a whole, we did a really nice job of that.
When you uttered that phrase, well, this is the way we've always done it, I heard the collective groan. Because we've all heard that, right? Or we've been in a situation. I'm sure there are a lot of business leaders, people who've worked in corporations that have dealt with that in the past. So the key to having success as a group, right, is getting buy-in from our employees, from the people we work with. How did you go about getting that buy-in from the players? Because obviously your success hinges upon you being able to reach Jose Ramirez with your message, reach Bo Naylor with your message, getting those guys to buy into what you want to do.
Yeah, I think specifically to the players, it's 26 very different individuals. They're all wired differently. They're all motivated by different things. They all come from different parts of the world, different parts of the country, different upbringings. Every single person is so unique, and you have to dive in and find out who they are. Again, for 3 hours a day, they get to go be 12-year-old kids and go play baseball. Yeah. And it's awesome. But for the other 21 hours, some of them are husbands, some of them are fathers, some of them are single, some of them are divorced. It's life. They're a human being. And in order to gain their trust, in order for them to understand that I want what's best for them, I have to get to know them. And I enjoy that part of the job probably more than anything else, is getting to know how fascinating some of these guys are. Hey, tell me about yourself. But it's that daily communication with them so that they know, hey, Voter wants to know about my life. He wants to know. He's in this with me because I am. Every time they strike out, I'm striking out. Every time they hit a homer, I'm doing cartwheels because I'm so excited for them. And that's really where you make an impact with the players. It's just like any other business. It's run by people. People have to go out and do the job. And understanding that and being able to relate to those guys is really what helped us.
I think back as a young kid, going through school, high school, everything in my life was structured. You know, you were at class at these times, practice was at these times, you had dinner at home at these times. You go to college, and the biggest thing I heard when I went to college was, time management, young man, time management. So I'm thinking about you as a manager. Time management has to be one of the most important do or die factors. How did you deal with figuring that out in your first year?
I found out that there's like these cool things on your phone, like a calendar and alarm clocks. Like as a player, I'm like, I don't know. I just get to go play. You know, I got to worry about me. But honestly, it was talking with some of the resources we have. You know, some of them are in this room right now, and they were instrumental in helping me organize how I'm going to go about each day. And when I say that I didn't do this by myself, it's true. This was an organizational win for us to have the year we did, because the people that have taught me and helped me learn how to do this, it's not easy. And from noon to 11 o'clock at night, I'm on. And whenever somebody comes into my office, that's the most important 5 minutes that they need my undivided 100% attention. And the hardest thing that you deal with in the time management is the emotional stress that you go through, right? You got somebody coming in and you send them to AAA, and then your heart breaks, you go have a little cry in the bathroom, and when you come out, the guy who just got called up, you got to be ecstatic for him. And learning how to manage all of that and have the different conversations in every domain or every bucket throughout the day, that was the most difficult part of me transitioning into this job, is just how busy and full every single day is. And then you go lay your head on the pillow at night and you think of all 26 players, you think of all coaches, and by 4 o'clock you sleep for about a half an hour, and then you wake up and do it again.
I think you can see why he was the American League Manager of the Year. And I know he's not going to like this because, you know, he wants the focus to be on the players, but if I could brag on him a little bit, one of the things that impressed me as a broadcaster and interacting with him on a daily basis is how authentic he was. He didn't know me from Adam, but he was authentic, he was honest, he was upfront, and I never felt like he was kind of beating around the bush or, you know, giving me a load of you know what, and I think you can see that in the way he's presenting himself here today. Culture. We hear a lot, that's a buzzword. It may have started in the business community and then seeped into the sports world or vice versa, but creating a culture for success is paramount. What is your definition of culture, and what's your vision of what a successful culture is within a sports team, within a baseball team?
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to put a definition, so it's going to be a really long-winded, around-the-block kind of thing. To me, it's what's our goal? Why are we here? If everyone that walks into our clubhouse doesn't understand what our goal is, then we can't get started. And I've heard from a number of players that I'm the first manager they've ever played for that said our goal is to win a World Series. Isn't that why we're here? Like, but the issue with that is we can't do that today. We can't win a World Series today. So if we know that that's our goal, every single thing that we do day in and day out is working towards that goal. So now, how do we break that down into daily goals, weekly goals, monthly goals? And we have a process, right? It's all about our process to get to our goal. And we didn't reach it this year, and we were disappointed. Proud of what we did, absolutely. But we're not satisfied. And how you build that culture is that every single thing, every single person wants that same goal. So they know that when we have our 90th meeting of the day or we go out and take extra batting practice, it's not for eyewash. It's not just for lip service. It is to put the work in, to be ready to win tonight, which will help get us to our goal. And when the players buy into that, when they want that, guess what happens? They love each other. They want Hosey to hit a home run more than they want themselves, because Hosey's really fun to watch. So, but I'm genuinely as happy for my teammate who just hit a homer than I am when I actually hit it. Or when Cade Smith comes to clean up Tanner Bybee's inning, Tanner's doing backflips for Cade and vice versa. The team that picks each other up and wants to hang out. We spend more time with each other than we do our families for 8 months out of the year. So you have to be a family. You don't always have to like each other, but you need to love each other. And those are the things that we talk about and how we built these culture. And what's great is I inherited a great culture already. But now let's just keep enhancing it. And let's keep moving the ball in the right direction.
In the macho world that is male professional sports, you don't often hear leaders of organizations use the word love as much as you do. Why is that so important to you that message gets out there, not only to the people in the clubhouse, but to the people watching at home?
I don't know. I think we all love each other, right? And if you're not acting in love, then what are you doing? And you're not always going to like each other. We have feuds. We get into it. It's not like it's all, teddy bears and balloons around here. But when you genuinely care for someone and you genuinely want what's best for them, you'll tell them the truth. People I like in my life, I'm going to beat around the bush and I'm just going to kind of get through the conversation. But if I love you, you're going to hear the truth, whether you want to hear it or not. And that was something that I kind of knew, but I wasn't able to put it into words. And then Jim Leland got elected into the Hall of Fame in the fall of 23, right when I got this job. And he had a quote, and it said, I'm going to butcher it right now probably. It said, if you lie to a player, you lose them forever. If you tell them the truth, they won't talk to you for 48 hours, and then you'll be right back to square one. And that couldn't be more true. I was lied to as a player, and it ruined that relationship for me and that other individual. And I vowed to never lie to a player. I would rather them be mad at me for a week, and that's what I encourage the players to do. I'll give you a great example of this. So I had dinner with a couple of our players last winter, getting to know them. And I said, tell me about the group of guys. Tell me what makes you guys tick. They're like, oh man, we love each other. That's great. We don't need to talk about anything else. Give me an example. He's like, well, sometimes we won't get on each other when things go wrong because we love each other so much. I go, whoa. That means you like each other. And I said, if you were going to talk to your brother and your brother was being a moron, you're going to tell him he's being a moron because you love him. That's what we have. That's why I use the word love, because that's the genuine connection that we all have as humans, and it's tangible, and I'm not afraid of the word love. It's awesome.
You mentioned Tanner Bybee, and last year was full of so many great moments, and that's what weaves together the tapestry of the season, all those little moments. But I think of one signature moment for you as a manager. And I say signature moment as a manager because, again, I get to peek behind the curtain. I see your day-to-day interactions. I see all that you do to get the team ready before they go on the field. People watching at home, they don't get to see that. They only see when you come out to change pitchers or when you send John Kenzie Noel up in the ninth inning against the Yankees to hit a pinch hit home run. Those are the tangible things they get to see your impact as a manager. I get to see some of the things that are not so tangible. But I want to go back to the Tanner Bybee moment because that was a signature moment in that you come out late in the game and everybody in the ballpark and watching at home, and me, myself included, he's coming to get him. He's going to take him out of the game, go to the bullpen. That didn't happen. Take us through sort of how that moment happened. Did it happen on the way to the mound? Were there conversations? Did it happen when you already got out there? Was it conversations with Craig Albernaz and Carl Willis? Take us through sort of how that moment ended up happening.
Yeah. So it started early in the year, actually, like probably a month before that moment of Shane Bieber goes down. What do we do? We need Tanner Bybee to be a dude. So how can we help his development and how can we do this? So that's always been in the back of my mind every time Tanner's pitching, every time I'm talking with Tanner. He's already unbelievably good, but how do we get him to be a dude? And yeah, I know. But I think in that moment, I remember we were playing the Twins at home and the game was close. And I don't remember what the bullpen situation was. I don't remember who was warming up. Probably wasn't Cade because it would have been Cade coming in. But I remember that moment, and it was the hitter before, and Tanner's pitch count was right on the cusp of uncomfortable. And I remember saying to Carl, I'm like, this is his last guy. And Carl's like, yeah. He didn't say it with conviction. And then I said, hey, Albie, this is his last guy. And Albie's like, yeah. I'm like, you guys need to speak up. I've never done this before, so I'm going to need you to chime in here. And Carl kind of talked through what he was feeling as the at-bat's going on and this and that. And I think there was 2 outs and the guy got a base hit. And I remember I'm like, all right, I'm going to go get him. As in I'm going to go get the move, make the move. And right as I take a step off the bench, Albie goes, why don't you challenge him? You'll see what he's made of. You want to make him a dude? Go make him a dude. Okay. And I went out there. And I went out there, and I remember what I said, but I just said, Tanner, I think you can get this guy out. Why don't you go and just get him out? But to me, it's the amount of work and effort and prep, and that's why I am so thankful I get to sit next to Carl Willis and Craig Albernaz, and that's what they're there for. They're there. They know me. So they know when I'm torn, they are my sounding board. And Albie, I hope all of you get to know Craig Albernaz a little bit better over this year because he's one of my best friends. I get to do this job with one of my best friends. And he calls me out. He doesn't let me get away with anything. We love each other hard. But in that moment, he knew that one of the things that I'm gifted at is challenging people and having great talks that can get them motivated. And he knew it in that moment. He goes, go challenge him. And that was it.
And I think Tanner's recollection of the conversation was a little different.
He's a liar.
I'm looking at your wife, Alyssa, and every time you utter a phrase that isn't maybe, she's just,
Sorry.
But I'm thinking of her because, again, going back, and I'm sorry to interject myself into the conversation, but when I was a young athlete, I remember playing a game. It didn't go particularly well. Family had come to watch me play in high school, grandparents, aunts, uncles from out of town. They'd made the drive. I stomped out of the locker room. I was sulking. I was short with my answers to everybody. And later that night, my dad, who was a very reserved person, my dad was not a yeller or screamer, he said, I need to see you in the garage. And I went, oh, that's not good. And he in a very mature and adult manner said to me, I think I was 15, 16 years old at the time. He said, never leave the locker room until you're ready to leave that game behind. And it was so profound in that moment, and it made me grow up really fast because we, as athletes, as coaches, as managers, even as a broadcaster, I'm fortunate. I get a 25-minute drive home after the game, and I get caught up in the game. You know, it's not my livelihood of whether they win or lose, but I get caught up in it. And that drive home lets me leave it there. And when I walk in the door, you know, I can talk to my wife about what's happened in her day and what's happened in the family. How different has it been for you as a manager to let the game go from when you were a player, so that when you go into Alyssa, you don't have to rehash the game over, you can focus on her and your family?
Yeah, I think the biggest difference is as a player, you're worried about you. You have to do your job. Baseball is an individual game played for a team outcome. So you just have to do your process. What went right? What went wrong? What am I working on tomorrow? Where can I get better? Boom, you're out. As a manager, you sit there and you process the entire game. You got to go through all 9 guys who played, maybe a pinch hitter or 2, all 16 pitchers that we use, because, you know, that's what we do. But you do that checklist for everybody, and then you do it for your coaching staff. And you have to come up with the 4 or 5 conversations that you might need to have the next day before the day even starts with individuals. And that's when I call Alyssa, is once I've gotten to that point. And my beautiful wife, she was, you know, we've met in college, college sweethearts, got married, been married 17 years now, and she's my best friend and been with me every step of the way. But she herself was a college and high school basketball coach. So not only do I get my wife and best friend to talk the game out with, but I get another coach with a very different perspective. And that's where she helps me not only process something that I'm having trouble letting go of, but how to navigate conversations for the next day. And I have Alyssa and I have a number of other people in my life that help me make sure I'm prepared to have that conversation with the player. So players worry about themselves, which please do. But for me, it's not only the players, but every coach, every staff member. That's my job, is to make sure we're all still on the same page and doing what we're trying to get to that ultimate goal.
All right, we're about to begin the audience Q&A. A couple more questions, and then we'll start the audience Q&A. I'm Matt Underwood, play-by-play announcer for the Cleveland Guardians, and joining me on stage is manager Stephen Vogt of the Cleveland Guardians. We welcome questions from everyone, City Club members, guests, students, as well as those joining via live stream at home at cityclub.org. If you'd like to text a question for our speaker, please text it to 330-541-5794, and City Club staff will work to try and get it into the program. So we'll get to those questions in just a couple of moments. You know, being able to deal with the ups and downs of a regular season, do you find it's easier to manage the wild swings of emotion as a manager compared to when you're a player? As a player, you could break a bat, you could go take out your frustrations. As a manager, I feel like a lot of times you almost have to reserve your emotions, especially in the moment during the game.
Yeah, I think that was the number one wake-up call for me, is how many people that know me from previous walks of life, dude, you look way too serious on TV. And I'm like, I have to be. If I show negative emotion, then the coaches show negative emotion, then the players think it's okay to show negative emotion. Trust me when I say, when there's a mistake made, especially on my own, I am fuming. But it doesn't do anyone any good to show that. And I'll celebrate the good times, absolutely. But I'm going to be as stoic as possible when things aren't going well, because one, I have to keep thinking the game. I can't get caught up in the emotions of what's happening. I got to be ready to make the next move. It is hard, and I work really hard at it every day. I have a mental skills coach that I talk to once a week, and he helps me gather my thoughts. He helps me work through the things that are frustrating me, and he's been a huge part of my career, both as a player and a coach and a manager now. And it's real. We all feel the emotions. We all get those negative thoughts in our heads, but we have to stay right here. And no matter if we've won 7 in a row or lost 7 in a row, and whether I got 1 hour of sleep or 5 hours of sleep or things back home are crazy with the kids or not, when I show up and walk through the doors of the clubhouse, I'm ready to go. Because if I show that I'm sad or I'm tired or I'm not ready, then that's going to permeate through the whole clubhouse, and we're going to have a Debbie Downer day, and we can't do that. So it is very difficult to manage the emotions. However, when you have empathy for the players who are struggling and you celebrate the wins with the ones that are going good, it's easy to be the steady rock and to keep it going.
One of the things that I've loved about my time in baseball is the stories, because you can't go a day in baseball without hearing a great story, and because there are millions of them, and everybody's got one. Everybody's got one that they keep in their back pocket for just the right moment. But I remember I had a coach, a guy had been around a long time, in one of my first years. He said, the thing I love most about working in baseball is that it's good for one big belly laugh a day. I mean, just where your tears are coming down your face, and somebody will tell a story, somebody will do something, somebody will say something, and it brings out that kind of emotion. Do you have a story? And granted, not every story in baseball is necessarily great for an open public audience. Some of them are better, behind closed doors. Limited audience. But do you have a good story that you can share with us, or who makes you laugh? When you know you need a laugh, is there a go-to guy for you?
I'll cover both. So obviously, sit next to Carl Willis and Craig Albert, as you've probably seen from time to time, we have a pretty good time in that dugout. And Albie and Carl both make me laugh. I'll share one quick Carl story, then I'll get to my belly laugh one. But
okay.
It was the first road trip of the year. We're in Minnesota. And, I'm in my first week of doing this, and we had our first, nail-biter game. It was the one we won 3-1. David Fry hit the 3-run homer. David Fry. What a year for him, huh? What a year for him. So tensions are getting there. We're in the bullpen, and I'm like, oh, God, what do we, I'm just white-knuckling and on the bench, and, stoic, but white-knuckling, and all of a sudden, Carl just slaps me in the chest. He goes, "You having fun yet?" and it just broke the tension. I started laughing. I calmed down, and that was Carl all year long. Whenever he could sense when I was starting to get there. So Carl's good for that. But the belly laugh story, I'll share with you, and probably a little TMI. But so I was catching one night. I don't remember where or how or when, but. Believe it or not, that chest protector doesn't do a whole lot. So I go down and I block a Sonny Gray curveball, which anybody who's watched Sonny Gray throw, that thing speeds up when it hits the ground. And it got me just right in the stomach and boop, let one out. And it was very smelly. So it knocked it out of me. And so I said to the umpire and hitter, I go, "Hey," I can't remember who it was, but I said them both by name. I'm like, "You guys need to clear out." So the hitter went back to the on-deck circle and got more pine tar. The umpire went and changed balls out with the bat boy. And I kind of looked, I go, "We're good." And they came right back to me.
Oh, man. I don't think I can top that one. So let's go to our audience. Do we have our first question from the audience?
Anybody can top that. Listen, you manage in a system of incredible payroll disparity. The difference between team payrolls and individual payrolls is breathtaking. How do you manage that, or do you manage that? Can you instill a sense of the underdog? Do major league players respond to the opportunity to make a small market team a big time winner, or do you just ignore it?
No, thank you for your question. We don't specifically talk about payroll disparity, right? That doesn't really pertain to us. We are who we are. And I think when we get in that room, again, our goal is to win the World Series. And so it's my job and the coach's job and the player's job to own that and know, this group can get it done. It may not look the same as somebody else. It may not have the same payroll like you're saying. But for us, this is the way we do it in Cleveland. And that's where we have to coach. And that's where our staff did a tremendous job with our young players. It was mentioned in the opening, we're the youngest team in baseball. I love it because we get to coach, we get to teach, we get to watch people develop and grow up and have it click. And I think one of the cool things I can illustrate for you all is we had a moment, and I don't remember the exact details, so bear with me, but we received a note from our R&D department, which is research and development. They gave us this one little statistic. And from that statistic, they handed it to the next person. From that, they dumbed it down to a one-page summary for us coaches. The coach read that, and we put it into one small adjustment for one of our players. And it took a week for that player to buy into this one little small adjustment. And then he did it, and he went off for like a week. And I just remember that feeling of like, this is how it works. You've got all these people diving in and pouring into our young players. So yes, it may not be the same payroll as the Dodgers or the Yankees or the Mets. That doesn't mean we can't do it. We just have to do it our way.
You know, off of that same thing, you touched on it a little bit. I don't know if there's any more concrete way you can describe to the audience what this organization does to try to stay ahead of the competition when it comes to, you know, non-traditional means of competition. You know, whether it's, you know, we've heard a lot about statistics in baseball, and they have a place and they have an importance. But what have you noticed about this organization that maybe you didn't know all went into the final product?
I mean, there's a lot. We have a ton of people. I think that's 300 plus people that work in baseball operations. And all of them are doing everything we can to give our 26 guys everything they have to go out and win every night. You have that many people working for you in their various domains and collaborating, working together, and it is so much fun because we all want the same thing, and that's to go win tonight. Statistics, analytics, all of these things, they're a tool. They're not the tool, just like baseball feel and gut and instinct isn't the tool, it's a tool. And we do a great job as a group of collaborating and working together to use the statistics as data to make informed decisions. That doesn't always mean I follow it, and sometimes we have some pretty good debates about that. But it's all part of what makes us who we are, and it's a baseball game played by people, but we use all the information we can to help those people be the best they can.
Stage fright. In the 1990s, when we had our juggernaut, the baseball team, John Hart was famous for tearing up somebody's contract 2 years before it would expire and sign them to an extension. Are you guys going to do that with Stephen Kwan?
Well, while I don't have the checkbook nor the ability to make those decisions, all I'll say is I hope Stephen Kwan's in a Cleveland Guardian uniform for a long, 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 long time.
Cheers.
Coach, when you were hired, my first thought was, you know, who the heck is this guy? Especially in the wake of Tito Francona's departure. And then I saw your last at-bat in the major leagues. I wondered, I've been dying to ask you to tell that story.
Yeah, thank you. So midway through 22, I wasn't very good anymore. And I had a great career, and I'm very proud of what I accomplished. And I say that in jest, but my wife, Alyssa, and I kind of figured halfway through, I'm like, I don't have the energy to go through another off season and put my body through this one more time. I'm 37 years old. I've been catching my whole life. I want to be able to walk and catch my kids, kind of thing. So once we decided that I was going to retire, I let the Oakland A's know, hey, this is going to be it for me. That was where I grew up. I played there 6 years. They're my family. And they said, okay, the last game of the year, we're going to honor you. So I'm like, you don't have to do that. Like, I'm good. We're going to. And they put together an unbelievable day for my family, friends, and us. There's 70 people there to come support Alyssa and I and the kids in my last game. And the A's did a lot of things they didn't tell me about. I'm glad they didn't tell me about them. But first one was I go up for my first at bat. And I had talked with Mark Kotze, our manager, and he said, hey, we were facing Shohei Ohtani last game of the year. Cool. Thanks, baseball gods. Yeah. But So I go up for my first at bat, and all of a sudden I hear my 3 kids' voices over the PA, now batting our dad. And now that's why he got me out, because I was crying, not because, but anyway, so one thing led to another, and I went up for my third at bat, knowing it was going to be my last moment on a baseball field. And thank goodness that pitcher threw one right down the middle, and I hit a home run in my final at bat. And I just jumped around like a 3-year-old kid going crazy around the bases. And it was a dream ending to a very fortunate career.
Hey, Stephen, congrats on your success last year, and thanks for shepherding the team through that season. My question is, in 2022, the Guardians won the AL Central with the youngest team in baseball, and then followed it up with a less than thrilling follow-up going under 500. My question is, last year, we won the division with the youngest team in baseball. What do you do to capture that energy moving forward to kind of repeat and win the division, have similar success, instead of kind of regressing like we did 2 years ago?
Yeah, I appreciate the question. I think it's really hard to be good year in and year out. I have to recognize that. My message is going to be for our guys, like, last year was last year. It's over. We did some great things. Let's continue to do those great things, but how do we move the needle and keep getting better? We're not going to be the team we were last year. We have different people in the room. It's not the same roster. It's a new year. Everybody's a year older. That's good for a lot of our guys and maybe not so good for some, but I think for me, we're not going to dwell on the success we had last year. We're going to learn from it, but we're going to keep moving the needle in the right direction. And again, it's one day at a time. And what's great about our coaching staff and our front office and our whole group is that we recognize the smoke before there's fire. And we do our best to keep it from catching fire. That was a really good analogy. So to answer your question, I don't know yet, because we haven't started. But I know this, that we're going to give it every effort to be better than we were last year. And we're going to keep moving the needle and push our players to be their best every single day.
Coach, thanks for a great year. And bring the humor aspect, which you mentioned, is one of the things to help you get through the long spring training and regular season. I understand in your formative years, your parents encouraged you to get involved in extracurricular activities beyond baseball, and that led you into the performative arts and choir and things of that nature. And that probably led to some of your teammates voting you the talent show winners and funniest guy on the team. And we could see today why that was so apparent. My question is, can you share with us one of your favorite impressions or songs that...
Ooh, I love it.
Man, I want to thank you. No, I appreciate that. My parents were great. My brother and I both had to play 2 sports and be involved in a third, a music or an art or something. And I sang in the choir in high school, and I was in the drama department and played baseball and basketball. And it allowed me to really learn how to do all kinds of different things, and I use them all now. And they're very helpful in this job. And most of the impressions I have are probably, not great, but I don't know. Let me get back to you. I'll get back. Let me let that rattle around for a little bit.
Thank you.
All right, how are you going into spring training in year 2 different from how you went into spring training year 1?
I don't have to meet 400 people. I know what it's supposed to look like. I know where we went wrong. I know what we want to enhance. Not just because we had success last year doesn't mean that's the way we're always going to do it, right? So I'm looking forward to not having to start at square one with everybody. I was tired last spring. Trying to get to know 400 people in a 6-week period was really difficult and very taxing. And now I get to enhance relationships, not build them. And I think that's what I'm most looking forward to, because that's where we can really start to do some powerful things.
Thank you.
Hi. I was obviously really excited to hear when you hired Elias Sinek. And do you have any tips for somebody like me who wants to work in the front office?
Oh. So first of all, not only is Alyssa Nacken awesome because of what she accomplished and the barrier she broke down for young ladies, and I think she's a phenomenal baseball coach. She's a phenomenal baseball person and a really fun person to work with. I'm looking forward to getting to know her even better coming up. But what I'll tell you is if you want it, you can do it. Don't let anybody tell you you can't for any reason. You fight and claw and work your way to where you want to get, and no one can stop you when you put your mind to it.
Just to echo what Stephen just said, and I hope that young lady takes what he said to heart, because I think on the surface, maybe people hear that and like, you say that to everybody, work hard if you believe in yourself. I can just tell you my own story. I mean, wow, it's almost 40 years ago. I was in college, and Chuck Tanner, who was a former big league manager, he was scouting at the time, came to scout one of our college baseball games, and I was doing the radio broadcasting. And I very meekly went up to him and said, Mr. Tanner, would you come on the air with me? And he graciously came on the air, like a little campus radio station, which was 100 watts in strength. We broadcast like to the end of Bagley Road, and that was about it. But he told me the same thing Stephen Vogt just said to that young lady. At that time, this was 1990, so he said, baseball's going to be expanding. There's going to be more opportunities. There's going to be jobs out there. He said, believe in yourself, and if you want it, go get it. Don't let anyone tell you you can't do it. Because I had friends that said, yeah, right, you're going to be a big league announcer. So you'll have a lot of people who tell you you can't. Don't listen to them. Don't listen to those people. Believe in yourself. You can do it. You'll be there. We'll be working for you someday.
Let me get your name before we leave today. Yeah.
Hello, my name is Kyle Williams. I'm a junior at MC Square STEM High School, and I wanted to know, because I help coach my teams on robotics, because I help make robots, but I want to know what you would say to someone who's coaching in general. Would you have any, something to say to them, something that can help them be able to, do their job more effectively?
Yeah, thank you, and you're a lot smarter than me, so.
I wouldn't say that.
I wouldn't. I don't know robots. You kidding me? Ask questions. Ask questions. I think a lot of times as coaches, we dictate what we want to see without checking to see if our players understand what we're asking them to do. Be curious what they're thinking. Be curious where their head's at. You might be thinking the same exact thing, but your vocabulary is different than theirs. Learn the vocabulary of your team and how you can speak to them in their vocabulary, because every single person is going to say the same thing a different way. So that would be my advice, is be curious and ask a lot of questions.
Before we get to this next question, I'm looking out here, I'm looking at the audience, and I know a lot of these people remember Vince Lombardi. I made this reference to you back in the green room that once upon a time there was a this is the way you do it, my way or the highway mentality. Where do you remember seeing maybe how coaching started to evolve as a player, where it went from, no, this is how we do it, this is the way we've always done it, to getting input from the player or from the employee?
I think it's a relatively new thing. It kind of changed over the course of my career. I was drafted in 2007, and by 2013, 2014, it was kind of there, where it was no longer, I was raised when a coach says jump, you say how high. Now if you say jump, they're going to say why. Why do you want me to jump? So that's for us, for coaching. We have to have a why. We can't just dictate what we want to see. These are grown men, especially in our world. These are grown men that have worked their way to get to the major leagues. So what used to be dictating, we call partnering. There's another buzzword. I'm scoring a lot of buzzword points for the people who don't work in the Cleveland organization. But I think for me, it's changed because we should have an explanation for why they want to jump. We should have an explanation for why we want to have them change something or make a change or enhancement to what they've already done. These guys have worked their whole lives to get to the big leagues, and they're really good. Why wouldn't we find out what makes them tick? Why wouldn't we get in to know the person, and then we can work together to find the best outcomes? So it's changed. It's very different, but we should have a why.
In relation to the shoes you had to fill, Do you truly believe that you can beat Tito in the Cincinnati Reds in the World Series?
Absolutely. We're going to have 2 trophies if they make it to the World Series. If they make it to the World Series. No, but yeah, the Ohio Cup stays here, and then hopefully the World Series trophy.
We have a text question. You talked about getting to know the players. How do you bridge the language divide with the Spanish-speaking players?
Very good question. So my Spanglish is pretty good. Now, a lot of our Latin players speak English as well. I speak enough Spanish to kind of speak baseball, but we have an unbelievable translator in Agustin Rivero, who I've heard from our Latin players, from other Latin players that have gone elsewhere, he's the best in the league. And he's just as big a part of our team and our coaching staff. He helps out on our coaching staff as well. And so we try to make sure that every one of our players, there is no boundary, there's no, nothing that's going to divide them from getting the same interactions and communication as our American-born players.
I think it's awesome, too. I get to watch it on the television side. For those of you who watch our telecast regularly, after we win a game, we send it down to the field for a player interview. And routinely, Andre will interview Spanish-speaking players. And at first, Augie would be there, and Augie would do all of the interpreting. And as the season goes on, you can see the player get a little more confident. And by the end of the year, Augie's just standing there like, why am I here? And it's awesome to watch the players embrace the idea, like, I want to be able to communicate to our fans in their native language. And that's a tribute to the organization for the resources they provide to the players and to the players themselves, as Vogt said, to want to get better and to be able to communicate. And it's a lot of fun to watch. And you see them like sort of get this great sense of pride. How was I? How did I do? And that's fantastic.
And just to add on to that, I should have mentioned this in the first response, but we have a number of very good teachers that we teach English to our players when we first sign from the Dominican or Venezuela or Puerto Rico and elsewhere. We have very good English teachers, and they've done a phenomenal job of helping our players learn.
Shout out to Anna Bolton. She helps me with a lot of the pronunciations.
Hello, this is a text question. Have you watched the classic baseball movie Major League, and how does that influence managing the expectations of the city hungry for a World Series championship?
I have watched Major League. One of my favorite movies. But what was the second part of that question again? I distracted myself.
How does that influence managing the expectations of the city hungry for a World Series championship?
I'll say it helps because we find humor. We use humor. It's the universal love language is laughing and enjoying yourself. And those guys in that movie had a blast. And I do think, even going back to the first question of the day, of whether you want to call it an underdog or not, we don't feel like we're underdogs. We feel like we're capable. And that's the message it is. It's not, oh, maybe even we can do it. No, it's we're going to do it. And that's the rhetoric we use.
Growing up in California, playing in various places in your career, having visited Cleveland as an opposing player, what jumped out at you about this city, about the people that you came in contact with that you didn't know about Cleveland? I'm sure you had preconceived notions like we all do coming in, and how did that measure up to what reality was?
Yeah, I didn't love coming here as a visiting player. You're mean. No, I'm just playing. I always loved coming here and seeing how passionate this fan base is. And, you do get heckled pretty good on that visiting on deck circle. Whoever gets that box underneath is pretty clever. But I think just seeing the passion, whether it be Guardians, Browns, Cavs, Buckeyes, national championship. But I think seeing the passion that for not a huge area, there are so many fans of their teams and they show up. I mean, I couldn't believe every single night in Progressive Field, Albie and I would walk up the steps and like, dang, this place is packed again. And it's just so refreshing for me, having played in a few places that don't necessarily pack the stadiums, but the people have embraced Alyssa, myself, and our family so much here, and we just can't thank you enough for how welcome you've made us feel.
Thank you very much to Stephen Vogt and Matt Underwood for joining us today at the City Club. Forums like this one are made possible thanks to generous support from individuals like you. You can learn more about becoming a guardian of free speech at cityclub.org. Today's forum is the annual Richard W. and Patricia R. Pogue Endowed Forum, made possible by a generous gift from Dick and Pat Pogue. We're delighted to have Dick with us today. Thank you, Mr. Pogue, for your long-standing support of the City Club, democracy, and our Cleveland Guardians. The City Club would like to welcome students joining us from MC Squared STEM High School and St. Martin de Porres High School. In addition, we really enjoyed having a few special young guests with us today.
Yeah, Gus.
We would also like to welcome guests at the tables hosted by the Cleveland Guardians, Longview Financial Partners, and the Trust for Public Land. Thank you all for being here. Up next at the City Club, on Friday, January 31st, we will hear from Juan Williams, Fox News political analyst and author of his latest book, New Prize for These Eyes, The Rise of America's Second Civil Rights Movement. William Tarter Jr., president of the NAACP Cleveland branch, will moderate. You can learn more about this forum and others at cityclub.org. And that brings us to the end of today's forum. Thank you once again to Stephen Vogt and Matt Underwood. I'm Lita Obertaz, and this forum is now adjourned.
For information on upcoming speakers or for podcasts of the City Club, go to cityclub.org.
Production and distribution of City Club forums on IdeaStream Public Media are made possible by PNC and the United Black Fund of Greater Cleveland, Incorporated.